A very good evening to you, and thank you for choosing us to provide you your day's news. I am Ndiro Ganga, ready to bring you up to speed with all the news creating waves across the globe. And as you know, we are all about business. Here's a glance of all the news making headlines in the business world.
ECD is no doubt one of the best programs that a government can invest in.
The First Africa Early Childhood Network Conference, Children Matters takes center stage at conference. Kenya Fertilizer Roundtable, all efforts towards a food secure nation. Kenya Farmer and Kenya Lab Expo, laughter could be the best medicine, but still, we need what is second best. Children from low and middle income countries are at risk of not achieving their development potential as a result of cognitive and socio-emotional deficiency from stunting and poverty in early childhood. It is for this reason that various stakeholders today converged for the first East African, or rather the first African Early Childhood Network Conference to deliberate on various measures to reduce poverty and stagnation in an effort to boost the environment of young children for them to survive and thrive through adulthood and contribute gainfully to their communities. Our reporter Daisy Wambo attended the briefing and filed the following report.
Nurturing care in the early years lays the foundation for optimal growth and development, ensuring improved health, educational and the economic well-being of children. Though for Africa, the achievement of the 2030 SDGs and the African Union Commission Agenda 2063 cannot be achieved without translating early childhood development research, policies and plans into actions at scale. The Africa Early Childhood Network Conference provided a platform to launch the continental and regional frameworks to strengthen advocacy for holistic approaches to early childhood education. In his speech, the chief guest, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, pointed out that investing in the young children is beneficial to both them and the nation at large.
The global community has collectively agreed that investing in early childhood development has potential huge returns on our children. Evidence has shown that children who have experience in quality early learning programs stay longer in school and demonstrate better learning outcomes.
He continued to state that the early children development is a venture that the government should invest in because its benefits are multifaceted.
ECD is no doubt one of the best programs that a government can invest in for the good of individual children and their communities, but also for sustainable, broader progress, prosperity, and development of countries.
He also asked the stakeholders to put more focus on the disadvantaged children and those that come from the deprived areas so that they are able to access the deserved quality services.
Collaboratively, we should all ensure that no child is left behind by deliberately targeting children from deprived communities with priority to the most disadvantaged young people so that they access quality childcare services, start school at the right age, and are prepared to learn and grow with the support of their parents as well as their communities. I emphasize the importance of multi-sectoral collaboration and partnerships with all sectors to maximize on the gains of these foundational early years.
In attendance was the Cabinet Secretary Education, Amina Mohammed, who said that the country has developed, launched and even started distributing an early children development policy in an effort to improve the enrollment in the early childhood development centers.
Your Excellency, at the national level, we've been able to develop an ECD policy, which we have launched. We have also developed guidelines on the implementation of this policy that was launched yesterday and is being distributed, even as we speak, across the country into the counties. And so I am hoping that with the distribution of the guidelines, that we will actually see better and improved enrollment of our children into ECD.
Care for children.
Cicely Kariuki, the Cabinet Secretary of Health, was also at the conference and pointed out that the ministry shall continue to work together with other relevant partners to ensure that efficient early children development is attained, because development is not achievable if no focus is given to early childhood development.
It is for this reason that the Ministry of Health will continue to play its role in ensuring integrated early child development gets its due attention. And for this reason, I'm here to stand with stakeholders in committing that my ministry will continue to root for an integrated approach and will continue to work with colleagues in government and in the development ecosystem to ensure that this becomes the order of the day.
Professor Kofi Matho, the chairman of the Africa Early Childhood Network, said that there was need to support the children that have been disadvantaged by factors such as poverty and conflict, among others, for them to reach the developmental opportunities.
But there are also millions and millions of them who are deprived of opportunities to develop to their fullest potential because of any range of factors: poverty, disability, disease, strife, and indeed wars that have plagued a number of our countries.
Investing in early childhood development is investing in the future of a nation. Governments, businesses, and communities should make this a priority if the development set agenda is to see the light of day. For BrandPlus TV Business News from the First Africa Early Childhood Network Conference at the Safari Park Hotel and Casino in Nairobi, I am Daisy Wambua.
The Kenya Fertilizer Roundtable today held a plenary session with all the relevant industry stakeholders on various issues, key among them being financing smallholder farmers, innovation in the seed sector, and climate insurance. The event was happening at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. Take a look.
I think what's really coming out is that there is need for...
While large-scale farming has for a long time played the key role in feeding the country, small-scale farming is equally important as it complements the efforts of large-scale farming. However, one key challenge that smallholder farmers face is finance. It is for this reason that Amy Azania, Senior Policy Officer 1 Acre Fund, pointed out that the organization saw a need in the market and began funding smallholder farmers.
The reason we finance smallholder farmers is that a lot of microlending, we see a lot of microlending going to urban populations and very little goes to agriculture, and even more little goes to smallholder farmers.
To this end, there is a need in the market to innovate seeds that can weather through any climate condition to caution farmers from financial shocks. Duncan Ochieng-Ngondu, Executive Officer Seeds Trade Association of Kenya, pointed out that this is to ensure farmers still gain bountiful harvests at the end of every planting season, irrespective of the weather.
We have been working with the CGR centers like ICRISAT, SIAT, AATF, for example, and what the breeders have been doing. They have been trying to look at what are some of the seeds that they can give farmers in terms of access that are drought tolerant and also resistant to diseases like MNL, for example, and also fall armyworm. To give a concrete example, we have in the last 2 years, for example, worked with CIMIT on a drought crop which we call ditmas, and which is good for low-lying areas or arid areas. And the farmers have recorded crop increase from initially about 10 bags per acre, even up to 25. So those are things which are already in the market. It is important because, first of all, technology is something that is ongoing in terms of innovation. The other one is to respond to the current realities of climate change. You will find that sometimes, unlike before where it would rain continuously for 3 months, these days it can rain sometimes for just 3 weeks. So those particular crop varieties have been bred in such a way that they can do well, especially where we have very minimal rainfall, and they produce almost equal yields as compared to the ones that we traditionally used to have.
lots of lessons shared.
To cushion the farmer further, new financial instruments such as climate insurance are being developed and offered by local banks in the country. Esther Mwiruri, Associate Director, Agribusiness Equity Group, noted that this is to ensure that the farmer is cushioned financially in case of any eventuality.
As we finance agriculture, we have realized there are very many challenges. One of them is because they require training, and the other one is because they require finance, and they also require insurance. Because what insurance does, it cushions farmers and other players within the agriculture value chain from exposure, which comes because of climate change. Like sometimes there is no rain, sometimes there is too much rain, and therefore insurance becomes like a mitigation to the risk that the farmers are exposed to.
Data sharing platforms.
With the theme of the event being increasing agricultural productivity through improved access and use of quality fertilizer, efforts are being put in place in the sector to ensure by the end of every season, small-scale farmers get bumper harvests across the country, and with it, the country inches closer to attaining food security.
Fertilizer industry. So thank you very much, but please.
Well, on that agribusiness note, let us head for a short commercial break, but do stay with us as we still have more stories lined up for you on the other side, including matters blockchain technology and artificial intelligence with the chairman of the Kenya Blockchain Task Force. Do stay with us. Welcome back to the most comprehensive, exclusively business news bulletin in the country. And now let us turn to matters health. Universal healthcare coverage is a key pillar of the Big Four agenda by the government, and for it to become a success, there is need for sustainable, quality and readily available medicine in our hospital. It is toward this end that the Kenya Pharma and Kenya Lab Expo kicked off today at the KICC. Our reporter Karari John Wambugu attended day one of the expo, and here are the details.
The promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya on 27 August 2010 was a major milestone towards improving health standards. The chapter on the Bill of Rights in the Constitution raised citizen expectation on improved quality of healthcare. But Universal Healthcare Action Plan by the government cannot be achieved without drugs, which are accessible, quality and affordable. This premise informed the fourth Kenya Pharma and Kenya Lab Expo. The Kenya Association of Pharmaceuticals Industries, which promotes ethical, innovative and responsible healthcare industry, chairperson Dr. Anastasia Nyalita, highlighted that there is need for maintenance of quality in matters pertaining pharmaceutical products.
For us, in terms of quality, what we're saying is that Kenya needs to remain the center of excellence in the provision of healthcare services in the region and possibly in Africa. And you cannot do that unless you also provide quality pharmaceuticals. So whether we are manufacturing locally or whether we are importing, whether it's innovative products or the alternatives, for us it's about quality. So quality must not be compromised.
She went ahead to reiterate that the Kenya Association of Pharmaceuticals Industries promotes and supports the Buy Kenya and Build Kenya initiative in relation to the pharmaceuticals.
Let's forge forward with that theme. And for us, we are supporting local manufacturing, but it has to be within the GMP standards and above, because then only then can we get also your medicines accepted across the region and across Africa, and hence we build economies.
Pharmacy and Poison Board Chief Dr. Fred Sioi stated that the government on its part will support the Buy Kenya, Build Kenya initiative by lowering the cost of production.
For the local industry, I think we've been trying to give them incentives where we say buy Kenya, build Kenya. If you go into that slogan, you will see so many incentives in it. We give incentives to our local industry, both at regulatory level, procurement, and even as the President was saying yesterday, yeah, we try to make the cost of production go low by reducing the tariffs on electricity. You can see the roads have been built, the railways, so that our goods can get to the market. So that is our role as government.
As day one of the Kenya Farmer and Kenya Lab Expo comes to an end, what remains clear is that the government needs to empower manufacturing, which is one of the big four agenda, so as to enable the full realization of the universal health care coverage, another pillar of its short-term development plan. Reporting for BrandPlus TV, I am Korari John Wambugu.
In February this year, ICT Cabinet Secretary John Musheru named former ICT Permanent Secretary Dr. Bitangen Demo to head a 10-member task force on blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. The task force was mandated to draw a roadmap for distributed ledger and artificial intelligence for the country for the next 15 years. To this regard, I had a sit-down with Dr. Bitangen Demo just ahead of the presentation of the task force finding to the Senate to talk more about the task force, its mandate, and where we stand as a country as far as these technologies are concerned. Take a look. We live in an era of the fourth industrial revolution, which is majorly being powered by ICT. However, when we hear terms such as blockchain technology and artificial intelligence, we tend to cringe. Mind-boggling words, right? We leave it to the West and the Asian countries to figure that out for us. However, we keep missing out, and it's time that Kenya and Africa writes its own narrative during industrial revolutions. That's why today we are joined by Dr. Bitangen Demo to break down what blockchain technology and artificial intelligence really is and its place in the economic development of the country and the continent. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Now, it's the month of October, and as we start this conversation, I'd like us to talk about tax, because October, most of the time in the country, is considered as the tax month, and currently the 4th annual tax summit is going on. And this year, they're talking about taxation to expand the revenue base of the government and also taxation in a digital economy. What are your 2 cents on that?
Those are 2 concepts you have raised: expansion of the tax base and also raising tax through digital methods. The first one is that governments have always tried to expand the tax base. And the reason they do that is because an economy like ours, we have a huge economy that is informal, that is very difficult to tax. And so any means that you can find to tax that area, you increase the tax base. One other reason why of expanding the tax base is that if everybody paid taxes, the tax rate will be lower. But that never happens. It ends up being that those who pay actually pay, they are the ones who suffer the burden. It is good to expand the tax base, and there are methods of doing it which are much easier. I said earlier that the problems that we have is because we have a very huge sector that doesn't pay tax, which is the informal sector. And the only way of getting especially the informal sector is to use cookies. These cookies are to enable them to utilize digital space, because what the digital space gives you is traceability, that you are able to trace and you are able to understand. And because if you are gathering such data, you have enough data to make a decision if they are making enough revenue that is taxable. But then they shot themselves on the foot by taxing both ends. Now you tax the digital space, these people will not get there. You will not get them. So the end would be that the people who pay taxes would continue to pay, and they are the ones who would suffer the burden. Yeah.
Now, speaking of support and the digital space, the president put together a task force to oversee blockchain technology and artificial intelligence in the country. And you happen to chair that committee, and you're in that committee with brilliant people like Dr. Juliana Rotich. What was the intent behind the formation of that task force?
Well, we started about 4 months ago. We've been talking to several stakeholders in the sector. We are through with the report. We need to find the ample time to present that report, and from there the government can begin to adopt it. The universities need to wake up. There is not one single university in Africa today that is teaching all of what I've said. South Africans have been able to go into data science. We are not there yet. We need to be in that space so that we can do something in the future. You keep on hearing about automation coming. Everybody's going to be disrupted. With the disruption, it doesn't mean there will be no jobs. It would mean that you retrain from a journalist to doing something else to earn a living. So this is what is going to happen, and that's why we need everybody to understand these technologies.
Now, Dr. for you to reap any benefit, you must put in work. And I like the fact that you've brought in capacity building. Now, during one of your plenary sessions, you said from Cairo to Cape Town, there are just 2 institutions, 2, that teach data analysis and have information on blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. Now, we were in the era of 3 R's, reading, writing, arithmetic. But now, the 4 R is being introduced, programming. How do we ensure we incorporate programming into our curriculum so that we are prepared to reap from the benefits that it will present in the future?
That's why we want to wake people up and say we have these new technologies. We want you to embrace these technologies. We need our children to learn how to code because that is the future. Everything needs promotion, just like in marketing. What are you promoting if you don't have a plan? So we are developing a plan that can be used to promote these new knowledge sources.
Now, there's a lot of misinformation or close to no information out there about blockchain technology and artificial intelligence. But these are things that will be operating in an environment that has people. So why is it important to have civic education and general knowledge in the country and the continent at large, rather, around the whole issue of blockchain technology and artificial intelligence?
People have been to several functions. People understand these things from their own perspective, and you can't blame them because they have not had time to read them through. The problem, however, is that sometimes we speak not because we have the facts, but we speak out of opinion. And sometimes people with very huge opinions mislead a lot of people. We should not slacken on this technology. Kenya did benefit a little from the advent of mobile, but not many African countries have done that. We would want across Africa to benefit. The problem we have a huge problem. Social media has completely obliterated general knowledge, you know. The other day I was doing an article and I was asking simple questions to students. And I said, how many of you can name the 5 presidents of East Africa? And others were asking, 5? Are there 5? And I said, okay, just name whichever you call East Africa. They couldn't name 2. You know, this is something when we were going to school, we memorized, we understood. So social media has sort of taken out people from getting into general knowledge or just general knowledge, understanding what is happening around you. That nobody teaches you. It is your own motivation to know what is happening. How big is Nairobi? Not one student tells you the acreage or the square miles of Nairobi. I mean, you should be knowing such. You know, how many hours does it take you from here to the airport, or how many kilometers? These are simple things, but you ought to be knowing, because when you talk to somebody, I come from Kenya, and they come to you and they say, how many hours would it take me from city center to the airport? And you guess 2 hours or something like that. So that's why we need to root for general knowledge.
You know, because blockchain technology and artificial intelligence are a fairly new concept in the country and equally in the continent, people do not tend to understand the real magnitude of these two issues. If you could just break it down for us and paint a visual picture, what are some of the benefits that any country or any continent is set to reap if they fully venture and leverage the opportunities that are available in blockchain technology and artificial intelligence?
Well, what is happening globally is that we are changing once more. Long time ago, we had the first industrial revolution. That was the time we moved from using our hands to produce to using mechanized processes, using steam engine to manufacture. Then came the second industrial revolution with the electric, which enabled us to do large-scale production, which is mass production. Then the third industrial revolution came using ICTs to improve on productivity. So everything looks at productivity. The first one, when we started using machines, we wanted to improve the productivity. The second was the same. The third, ICTs were being used. This is the time we are getting to the fourth industrial revolution, which is not just going to use ICTs, but would go deeper and using two key areas, two key technologies. One is artificial intelligence, and the other is blockchain. Artificial intelligence comes from data analytics. When you analyze data, you could wait until everything happens so that you find out what happened. You could also be able to analyze data so that you predict what is going to happen. But now you can also analyze that further to be able to get to a level where you don't just predict, that you can simulate the future. And I would give you a very good example so that you understand this. For many years, we used to say, tomorrow it might rain. But nowadays, they say, this week you are going to get this much rain. They are able to predict. And what they used to do, they would wait until the rain washes everybody away. They say we had heavy rains. Now we talk about the rain that is going to come. If you see what happened with the Hurricane Michael in the US, they were predicting that it's going to land here, move out of here. But compare that with Indonesia. 2,000 people died because they were not able to predict. The same thing happened in Uganda when the rain swept a lot of people. They have not been able to reach a point where they are doing predictive analytics. You see the meteorological department already is doing predictions. We want to get into where we can predict when and where the rains would come next year, so that we tell the farmers, this is what you can do. You can go further than that and be able to predict how much can they produce next year. Then you are able to plan. This is what you call the fourth industrial revolution, where you can almost see the future. Yeah.
I would like us to talk about a very controversial, shaky, and also kind of volatile, because it's also volatile in nature, and that is cryptocurrencies. Now, there's some parts of the world that have warmed up to it, have taken it up, and they're even doing the business and trading in cryptocurrency. However, here we're still lax. And I'd like us to talk about the state of cryptocurrencies globally and where we are at as a country with the uptake of cryptocurrencies.
It is not just Kenya. Everywhere in the world, there is a curve we use to see how fast technology is diffusing among the people. In that curve, there are those who can take it early, there are those who come in the middle, and there are those we call the laggards. Laggard would always lose. Laggards would always lose. Globally, it picked up and the people didn't quite understand it. and they started running away, and then it crashed. People fear volatility of any kind. It's beginning to pick up. These are the motions that you go through when a new technology is introduced. We went through this when internet was created. We went through this when mobile came. We are going to go through this as blockchain is being implemented.
Kenya disassociate itself from cryptocurrencies and tell Kenyans, if you partake in that business, you're on your own. Why are we seeing such resistance? And because cryptocurrency looks like it's here to stay, how can we introduce regulations to govern that space?
The way we take risk is different. One person can be a risk taker. You realize one of the central bank governors was instrumental in the creation of M-Pesa, which was much more riskier than the cryptocurrency. So it depends on who is sitting at that chair. Can he be able to take risk? Of course, we have problems in government in the sense that it is not very easy to be innovative in government because you can be fired if it fails. And so one of the proposals we are making is that we can create a section where you can make mistakes. If it passes, well and good. If it fails, well and good. Several countries have done that. Brazil, for example, has something called mission-oriented policy, which enables civil servants to create, and if it fails, they don't get punished for it. On our part, when I was in the office, I didn't care working on M-Pesa because I had a job at the university. If they fired me, I would go to teach. So if it succeeded, well and good. So not everybody has insurance like I did. Mm-hmm. So that's the difference, because innovation precedes regulation. And what do you regulate if you don't know what it is? So you need to fall down in order to stop walking on a slippery place. There is no other way. That's how you teach young kids, small kids. Leave them to touch the light so that they know it can burn them. Yeah, that's how you learn.
Now, every coin has two faces. There's the disadvantages and the advantages. The disadvantage is very clear. It's a very volatile stock, so there's a lot of risk that pertains to it. But I want us to talk about the advantages because it's something that we rarely talk about. So what are some of the advantages that we can enjoy as a country if we maximize on the potential of cryptocurrencies?
We would create a lot more jobs if we embraced cryptocurrency, and I will tell you how it works. There's a new concept coming that is called tokenization of the economy, meaning that we can give young people to do certain jobs that are not being done and reward them with tokens. And at some point, these tokens can actually be redeemed one-on-one on the shilling. We can say, if you collect garbage, we can give you tokens. And the money from environmental initiatives can actually be the one redeemed for the work that you have done. So you end up creating a lot more jobs than we do at the moment.
So finally, we've enjoyed talking to you, but we've run out of time. So I have just 30 seconds to 1 minute to slip in one question, and it will be, what is your parting shot in relation to artificial intelligence, blockchain technology, and cryptocurrencies altogether?
This is the whole future. I mean, 5 years down the road, you can't ask me that question because blockchain would have gotten into the entire economy, virtually every sector. Artificial intelligence would have swallowed virtually everything. We would be talking better about the future because we know more from artificial intelligence. We would have better farmers because they know what they are doing. Right now, we don't know. There's no visibility. You don't know whether you will sell your crop. You don't know how many competitors would be there. So these are the things that we begin to see changing the economic landscape of Africa. And I wish we embraced this and ran away with it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Asante.
On that note, let's take a look at how the markets performed today. Here is a summary. just a summary of how the markets performed, but for more in-depth analysis of the financial markets, tune in tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for my next big bet with Ray Chanderitu and Karanja Daniel. Now let's have a look at the weather's report. That was it from our business news desk tonight, but do make sure to tune in 9 p.m. tomorrow for fresh serving of news-making headlines in the business world. Do have a good night.